I'm looking at the Thorens TD202 Turntable, priced at £549. It's a turntable which is not exactly at the cheap budget end. It is budget, I would classify, but in a sort of mid area of budget turntables. And there's an awful lot of competition in this sector. Now the TD202, I wouldn't necessarily call an audiophile table. It's a belt-driven turntable, yes, but I would say it's aimed rather more towards a lifestyle customer, mainly because it arrives with two lifestyle-orientated features. The first is a USB port and the second is a built-in phono amp. Now both of these features will induce some high frequency noise, which will be not so good in terms of sound quality. Both of these items built into a sensitive turntable is not great. It's not good news in terms of pure sound quality. So if pure sound quality is your priority and that's all you care about, then maybe the TD202 is not really a design for you. If you're looking for these features built in to a turntable, then by all means carry on watching. And there are good reasons to buy a turntable like this in this configuration. The USB port is a very useful feature if you would like to rip vinyl to a digital file. So basically you can plug this turntable into a computer of some sort and using maybe say free software like Audacity, and then you can save that digital file and you can use that wherever you want, whether it's in a portable player in the kitchen or maybe a player in your car or a digital music player that you may have in your pocket. Now ordinarily the analog to digital converter, because that's what it is, that's basically what's inside the plinth here, you're just seeing the USB bit, but the analog to digital converter you would normally have to buy as a separate unit if you want to do this sort of ripping. So having this built in to the turntable and having it as part of the overall price of the turntable does save you some cash. So vinyl ripping is the sort of thing you might think you may do in the future. The TD202 might be the turntable for you. Another freebie that you will get with the TD202 is the built-in phono amplifier. Now, in case you don't know, a phono amplifier is a specialist item. It does one job and one job only. It takes the tiny, tiny signal that emerges from the stylus in the groove and it amplifies that signal. And once your phono amplifier has amplified that tiny signal to a level, your main amplifier takes over the job and finishes the job and takes the signal and pushes it through your speakers. But at the beginning, the phono amplifier is there to give the main amplifier a helping hand, as it were. Now phono amplifiers can be external or internal. You may find a phono amplifier inside an integrated amplifier, for example. And as I say, there are plenty of external models and they come in their own chassis. Now, an external model, an external phono amplifier, can be relatively expensive. And when I say relatively expensive, anything from sort of £50+ but they can get extraordinarily expensive. So if you're building a hi-fi, an external phono amplifier will add to your budget. Now, with the TD202, you're basically getting that for free. So having one built into the turntable may be useful if cash is short and maybe you've spent all your money on the turntable. Another reason a built-in phono amplifier may be useful is to cut down on the footprint. Now, if you have an external phono amplifier, you're going to have to put it somewhere. It's going to take space somewhere. With a built-in model, that worry is removed because the phono amplifier is already inside the turntable. It doesn't take up any excess space. And don't forget, with a built-in phono amplifier, you do have the ability to plug your turntable straight in, directly in to a pair of powered speakers. Again, cutting down on the footprint. So both of these features, while maybe not appealing totally to the audiophile user out there, will be of great interest to a more lifestyle orientated vinyl fan. Now both of these features can be found around the rear of the plinth, and while we're there you'll also find a power switch and a socket for an external power supply. You can change the speed with a sort of toggle switch that you'll find on the near left That'll go from 33 and 45 and back again. And on the near right, you'll also find a start-stop switch. The tone arm, as I say, has a straight arm tube with a canted headshell, and hanging underneath that is an Audio-Technica AT95E. This particular cartridge has an elliptical stylus tip. To do the sound tests, I had a couple of pieces of contrasting vinyl. On one side of the coin I had a little bit of Ella Fitzgerald, and on the other I had a piece of vinyl from a guy called Ananda Shankar, who's Ravi Shankar's son, incidentally. So there was a mixture of sitar and also rock in the arrangement, which was a strange but fascinating mix. Starting with Ella Fitzgerald, I quickly tested the internal phono amplifier, which is fine. It's fine if you're short of cash, but I'd recommend an external model as soon as you can afford one if you're looking for improved sound quality. An external model will extend the dynamic reach and open up the soundstage. To better review the actual turntable, I attached an external phono amplifier and carried on the review like that. I did note a slightly strident to the upper mids and treble from the TD202, although detail was easy, forthcoming and plentiful. Treble-based cymbal hits were rather too splashy, blooming and lacking in control, although the cymbals were full of vigour and energy. Bass was big and bold, but focus was not the best, while the lead vocal was relatively clear but lacked imagery. The output was reasonable, but I felt that the TD202 could do better. That's when I decided to remove the cartridge that came with the TD202, let's not forget, was an Audio-Technica AT95E. Now the AT95E is a little bit off the pace these days, I would say. And if you're in the market for a cartridge of that price point and has an elliptical tip, I would go for the VM95E, which is basically Audio-Technica's replacement of the AT95E. And while I was there, I also replaced the Thorens headshell. I took that off, and instead I grabbed a headshell from the Audio-Technica LP5X, and I put that onto the Thorens instead. So what we had now was a Audio-Technica headshell, and underneath that we had a VM95E. So with that pairing, I installed both of those onto the Thorens arm and had another listen. Immediately the sound improved, dramatically in fact, becoming wholly more civilized and precise. Although Fitzgerald's vocal retained a slightly lit mid-range aspect, it did calm an awful lot. It sat nicely into the stereo image center and even held a sense of the 3D in that her delivery had a measure of depth. The brass section on the right channel was less clinical now, a little bit more organic. You felt that the brass was being controlled by humans instead of what appeared to be machines earlier on. The AT95E is fine as it stands in terms of its role as the default cartridge for the TD202, but I would look to upgrade this cartridge to at least a VM95E. The difference was immediately noticeable. Continuing the test, bass was admirably focused on the left channel, easily discernible by the ear, and nicely weighty. It might not have the character that you may find on an Audio-Technica LP5X, but bass on the TD202 still had lots of impact. The retention of a slight clinical aspect to the overall soundstage did accentuate detail, so piano on the TD202 was more visible here than, say, an LP5X. The same could be said for the very shy acoustic guitar strumming on the same channel. Turning to Ananda Shankar, the TD202 almost seemed to prefer the more rocking aspect of the track. The slightly chaotic nature of the internal frequencies of a typical rock track was handled very well by the TD202. The raucous aspect of drums and bass guitar, and in this case sitar, allowed the TD202 to, well, party, I suppose. Instead of stumbling when faced with the demands and accuracy of jazz, this slightly loose-limbed approach was an easier hurdle for the TD202 to jump. Nevertheless, I felt that the Thorens could give me more. I wasn't too happy still. So I looked around and I thought, how can I tweak this? How can I improve it? And I took the Platter off the Thorens and I looked underneath, and there was, which was nice to see, a sort of rubber tube inside the lip of the Platter. Now this is a good thing and helps to reduce, if not remove, any ringing that the Platter actually initiates, and that can cause noise again, and it can cause issues of sound quality. And the noise from a ringing Platter, when I say ringing, I mean literally if you hold it up and hit it with your knuckle, you can hear it ring. That's what I mean by ringing. So if you can dampen that effect, well, all the better for the eventual sound quality. So fine, that was good for the actual Platter, but on top of the Platter, the mat that you're given is a rubber mat. Now, I hate rubber mats. Rubber mats are worse than useless. They look good, they look really effective, but they're not. They don't really do the job. In fact, instead of a rubber mat, a felt mat will do a better job. But I wanted to go a little bit further than that and not spend a great deal of cash doing it either, incidentally. So I looked for an accessory sold by Pro-Ject. This one is called Cork-IT. Now the Cork Platter mat from Pro-Ject will set you back somewhere around £20, maybe a bit less, 18, 19, something like that. I'll put a link below so you can check it out yourself. So that's what I put on top of the Thorens Platter. The new Platter mat steadied the ship, added depth to the bass, control to the lead vocal, lowered noise, added reverb to the cymbals, and basically offered an all-round improvement. It even made the original 1895E cartridge sound listenable. With the upgraded cartridge and mat in place, the TD202 performed very well indeed. With the mat and the cartridge in place, I then played the jazz track again. Fitzgerald's delivery was far more confident and emotive this time. There remained a slight illumination around the mids, but the cymbals provided a much improved fragility in the treble area. Percussion and soundstage were better balanced as well. Now a VM95E cartridge, if you do upgrade, is going to cost you around £40. The mat will be a tad beneath 20, so that's £60 in terms of upgrades. And then if you want to add a cartridge, well, that's another £10, £15 or so. So we're talking £75, give or take. Add that to the price of the turntable, and we're looking somewhere in the region of £620, which is not cheap. And this is my main issue with this particular turntable. It's the price for what you get. The turntable itself looks great. It has that nostalgic 70s look, and I really like the look of it. It is a capable turntable, and it does the job. I think it needs a tweaking here and there. Buying in a TD202, well, it arrives in this sort of ugly duckling sort of fashion, and it's your job to turn it into a beautiful swan, basically. So if you tweak it here and change it there and modify it there when you can, when funds allow, you will certainly improve the sound quality of this turntable. And as I say, it looks really nice. It has that sort of 70s nostalgia thing. Now you're going to have to weigh up whether the money spent on buying in the TD202 plus its tweaks and its upgrades is worthwhile for you, or whether you're best spending it on a different type of turntable. Like I say, the TD202 does come with the built-in phono amp and the USB port, and it has that look. It has that old-fashioned retro look. All those things added up may appeal to you, and it might tip the balance. If you're purely after sound quality, the TD202 is really not where I would go. But if you're interested in those lifestyle facilities and you like the look of the TD202, then this Thorens turntable is certainly one to consider. And that's it for me. Again, I'll put some links below for the cartridge and also the mat if you'd like to investigate those for potential upgrades of this turntable. I'll also include some social media links from myself, a link to my blog, my Patreon page, and other bits and pieces. You'll find them all down in the description. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Until then, bye bye for now.